The world today does not fail because people are unwilling to work hard. It fails because too many people manage while too few actually create real value. Never in history have there been so many managers overseeing so little meaningful work. Never have administrators, procedures, rules, evaluations, and reports grown so endlessly. And yet, the real results of these efforts have never been lower than today. Systems move slowly, bogged down by layers of rules, approvals, and unnecessary processes. Institutions have become inert, resistant to change, and incapable of adapting quickly. Society drags forward as if moving through thick mud, slowed by bureaucratic weight. Not because reality itself is complex, but because it has been deliberately hacked and reshaped. Hacked by people who produce nothing, yet manage and control nearly every process. This is the story of bureaucracy that has stopped serving society entirely. It now exists only to perpetuate itself, expand, and justify its own continued existence. Managers are not a problem because they are evil. The problem is far more mundane. They simply do not create real value, not because they refuse, but because their work is not tied to reality. They do not build bridges, repair machines, heal patients, or create meaningful art. They make nothing that exists outside of paper, screens, or endless meetings. Their labor leaves no mark on the world. It only leaves a trace inside the system itself. Their job is not to construct, fix, or innovate anything of lasting importance. Their work is to supervise people who already know what they are doing. They measure things they often fail to fully understand. They evaluate outcomes they themselves did not produce. They coordinate processes they did not design. And they produce paperwork as proof that something is happening. In reality, they do not manage work. They manage the perception of work instead. In other words, they are a buffer zone between those producing results and the reality in which it occurs. Whenever reality grows more complex and problems arise that forms cannot solve, the system rarely seeks solutions. It seeks explanations instead. This is where the vicious cycle begins. As the system grows, so does the need to justify and explain itself. Each new layer creates the need for additional supervision. Every new process demands extra evaluation. Every evaluation requires a report. Every report requires a meeting. Every meeting requires minutes. And every set of minutes requires yet another manager. The more managers there are, the more rules appear. The more rules there are, the more administration accumulates. The more administration exists, the less real work gets done. Eventually, the system no longer serves the work. The work begins to serve the system instead. Bureaucracy behaves exactly like a parasite, feeding off what others create without producing anything itself. A parasite does not generate energy, light, or heat. It survives by consuming what its host has already produced. Unlike ordinary parasites, bureaucracy has a unique ability to redefine reality and decide what counts as work. If enough people sign a paper, that action can suddenly be considered real work within the bureaucratic system. Writing a report about another report is treated as achievement, even if it produces no tangible results. Creating a procedure to check another procedure becomes a legitimate system that justifies the administration's existence. Meanwhile, the world outside administration continues to operate according to the laws of physics and human reality. Inside bureaucracy, energy is never truly created. It is repackaged, redirected, and measured to appear productive. Every act of paperwork produces the illusion of activity, and that illusion alone is considered measurable output. In this way, the system becomes a closed loop, self-sufficient, serving only its own survival rather than society. Real work no longer changes the world. It exists only to fill forms, compile reports, and justify bureaucracy. While natural parasites eventually kill their hosts, bureaucracy does not, allowing it to feed indefinitely without consequence. It converts human energy and creativity into hierarchical structures, leaving society slow, inert, and trapped under paperwork. The outside world loses its rhythm as bureaucracy continues to grow, freezing progress and innovation under administrative weight. This pattern does not exist only in companies. It is present everywhere across society and institutions. In governments, laws and regulations multiply endlessly, often creating more obstacles than solutions for real problems. In hospitals, administrative work frequently hinders doctors, slowing down care more than it actually helps patients. In the military, procedures sometimes block initiative and rapid response, especially in the American military with complex hierarchies. There, logistics, layers of command, and paper trails can outweigh the actual needs of combat operations. Education experiences bureaucracy mainly as a side symptom, but it is still present in nearly every institution. Over time, every bureaucracy stops solving problems and instead begins producing new ones to justify its existence. Problems justify budgets, allow expansion, and create reasons for the system to continue operating without producing real results. In the American military, the officer-to-soldier ratio has drastically changed over the centuries, illustrating this imbalance. During the Civil War in the 1860s, there was one officer for every 14 soldiers, while today the ratio is closer to 1 to 4. The most visible problem is the growth of generals, especially 3- and 4-star officers, which has skyrocketed in modern times. In World War II, America had about 12 million soldiers and only 7 4-star generals, a stark contrast to today. Currently, with only 1.2 million active soldiers, the military has 40 4-star generals, highlighting extreme hierarchical expansion. Practically, a 4-star general has a personal G-5 aircraft, always available, valued between $50 and $60 million. Meanwhile, ordinary soldiers often lack basic necessities, with 1.2 million veterans relying on food stamps, representing 8% of all American veterans. While generals enjoy luxury aircraft and privileges, the soldiers fighting wars remain under-resourced and unsupported. Thousands of new procedures, committees, and reports are created, and initiatives coming from the lower ranks are often blocked at higher levels. The system that is supposed to enable fast, effective decisions instead becomes slow, inert, and increasingly self-serving. Bureaucracy does not measure success by what has been accomplished or how many people it has truly helped. It measures success by its own expansion. If it grows, it is correct, and if it multiplies, it demonstrates its power. This is the logic of a system that has lost touch with reality, where every decision and report reinforces the bureaucracy itself. Real work, innovation, and value creation become secondary, while creators are marginalized, relocated, or dismissed entirely. This logic is universal. Bureaucracy does not depend on individual intentions or goodwill. It evolves like a parasite, constantly finding ways to survive, expand, and ensure its own continuation indefinitely. The result of all this is a society that stands still, unable to move forward or generate meaningful progress. People work harder than ever, yet produce less real value or lasting impact in their daily activities and contributions. Institutions have grown larger over time, but their effectiveness and ability to deliver results has steadily declined. Systems are slower than before, and costs continue to rise without any corresponding increase in meaningful output. All of this is not accidental. It is the logical consequence of a bureaucratic parasite taking control over reality itself. The more administration, rules, and managers exist, the less space remains for genuine results and creative problem-solving. This is why people give up, not because they are lazy, but because they realize effort no longer guarantees tangible rewards. Often, effort is redirected to maintaining the system itself, rather than producing something of real, lasting value in the world. Ultimately, society loses its vitality, and the energy necessary for innovation and progress begins to drain away. Ambition cools, creativity is stifled, and genuine human energy leaks through the gaps created by forms, reports, and procedures. Those who want to build, fix, or innovate encounter walls deliberately erected by bureaucracy to prevent actual progress. People gradually learn that the game is no longer about engaging with reality, but about navigating paperwork and endless administrative hurdles. The goal shifts from creating value to merely surviving within a system that now exists solely to preserve itself. This is a society where energy stagnates and potential decays, trapped under layers of procedure, oversight, and managerial control. Bureaucracy cannot grow forever, just as a parasite cannot feed indefinitely without eventually reaching its limits. Throughout history, whenever administration becomes larger than reality itself, the system inevitably collapses under its own weight. Before that collapse, however, a quiet transformation begins. People stop trusting institutions and start relying on their own judgment. Perhaps this is the only good news in a system that has become slow, inert, and overwhelmed with endless procedure. A society that has been hacked, overrun by rules, reports, and procedures, can also be de-hacked if its structures are addressed. Systems that have learned to measure work by paperwork instead of real-world impact can relearn how to value actual results. The parasite that once dictated what is important can be removed, allowing space for genuine effort, creativity, and progress. Energy that has been trapped in stagnant bureaucracy can flow freely again, fueling meaningful action and real accomplishments. This is not a moment of instant repair. It is a slow, deliberate process of reconnecting society with reality and purpose. Through careful dismantling of the bureaucratic layers, society can once again fulfill its original purpose, creating meaning, innovation, and lasting value.